Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
It's another week, another day, and another edition of the MedFiles program. I am your host, Marianne Waisha, and once again, we are here to answer the questions we have from you concerning your health. And we are in studio with Dr. Paul Wanjohi, who's usually here with us to answer the questions that we have from you. Daktari, like we always say, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
We are grateful, and we have a whole range of new questions for you. So we are grateful for you. Continued support.
Thank you.
All right. So I think we can take the first one. We have a few interesting ones, especially to do with the seasons, to do with the rainy season, others to do with the warm weather. So let's take them as they came to us.
All right.
This is a lady who talks about a problem that she has, and she also quotes a problem that a friend of hers experiences during the rainy season. And I think it's common for most of us during the rainy season. At one point or another, you get rained on. You know, you get caught in it somewhere, somehow, somewhere you get caught in the rain. So she says for her, when she gets rained on, she gets a headache. A very, very severe headache that, you know, she says, in fact, it doesn't end. Even if she gets rained on in the morning, she'll have the headache all day, and it doesn't go away until she sleeps. So that's her. Her friend, a bit more interesting, gets rained on, and she begins to itch, and her whole body swells. So I don't know what it is in rain that would cause that kind of a reaction. We've heard of acid rain.
Okay.
I don't know if that I don't know if that would make sense in this situation.
Okay. Well, okay, with the first scenario, I mean, the lady who gets these headaches when it rains, there are certain conditions where change of weather, especially a change of weather from warm weather to cold weather, which occurs suddenly, can predispose to a headache.
But now this is when she's rained on.
Yes. Now what happens is when it rains, when it starts raining, there's usually a change in pressure. The pressure in the atmosphere goes low, and that affects people who have sinuses. You know, people with sinus conditions. If somebody has any allergic condition which is affecting the sinuses, that sudden pressure change which precedes a rain episode can make them have this sinus headache, which can persist for quite a while. It's also been shown that, I mean, people who suffer from migraines, rain can be a trigger factor. When somebody is rained on, similarly, and the cause is probably the same thing. That change of pressure preceding rain, and that affects some blood vessels which are going to the brain, and that change can trigger a migraine attack. So the main things you find is migraines and these sinus headaches which people get.
Which are allergy related.
Yes. Which are allergy related, that's true.
Okay, to take you back a bit, you mentioned migraines, and I think migraines are a whole different topic that we should pick up another day.
That's true.
But give us a bit of a background on migraines and how those come about.
Well, migraines, for the bigger part of it, the exact cause of migraines is not known.
It's not known.
There are people who are predisposed to migraines, and and even migraines in themselves, there are many different types of migraines. But the exact cause of migraine is not known. There is a genetic element. There are also age factors. there are certain things which tend to predispose to certain types of migraines. Like people, there are people, as we have seen, somebody who has a history of migraines, rain can predispose.
Yeah.
But there are other factors like lack of sleep, fatigue. Some people, when they take red wine, some people, when they take chocolate, strawberries, they can get migraines. And there are also other predisposing factors which can trigger migraine attacks. But as I've said, there are different types of migraines, and there are other things. In fact, even some people who are on oral contraceptives, that in itself can
be
predispose to migraines.
Okay.
Yes.
So for this one, it's going back to the
Yeah.
lady who gets a headache. So she's probably one of those people
It-
who
yeah,
are
most
predisposed
likely.
to migraines, and this is a trigger.
Trigger, or probably she just has these allergies, and when this rain starts, now she gets a sinus headache.
I
Yes.
see. So that's her. She quotes her
Yes.
friend.
Yes.
Itching and swelling of the body
Yeah.
because of being, out of being rained on. What's in rainwater? Is it just
Okay.
the cold?
Well, in this particular case, we don't have a lot of information, but there are people who have something called cold urticaria, where they get these allergic reactions when they are exposed to sudden cold. And rain is sudden cold. If
Yeah.
you're rained on,
Rainwater
the
is
water
sudden
droplets,
cold.
they evaporate and you can become very cold. Yeah. And in these people, rain is one of the trigger factors. So this is somebody who they are fine, and then they are rained on, then they start
Like all of
itching.
a sudden they're itching.
They're itching, and then they start getting this swelling, redness, yeah, a lot of itch, a lot of discomfort, and that kind of thing. Yeah. It is something which is there. It's a
So you've
condition
seen
which
it,
happens, yes. And it's not only rain. Yeah. In certain places, if this is somebody who has come from a very warm environment and you expose them suddenly to a very cold environment like an AC, suddenly they might start itching. So it's not
I
just
see.
rain.
Yeah.
So there are people who actually have that kind of thing,
Okay.
which is something which is known.
Which is known.
Yes.
So that would be dealt with in the same way that perhaps you would deal with an allergy.
Yes, because because it's a bit of an allergic reaction, not quite an allergic reaction, but generally similar to how you react to when you're allergic to something. You're not really allergic to rain, and you can't really say you're allergic to cold. But what happens is there are certain cells under the skins which they release certain chemicals when they're exposed to cold, and that is very, very similar to the reaction that you get when you're allergic to something. Yes.
And so how do you treat that? With I know for allergies you use I think antihistamines. How do you treat that?
The treatment is about the same as for allergy. The main thing in this particular case is to try and prevent it.
Or just don't get rained on.
Yes, because antihistamines, they work, but they don't work as well in this particular scenario as they would in somebody who gets an allergic reaction to something. But there is an effect. There are certain antihistamines which have been shown to work.
So just don't get rained on.
Well, that's a bit difficult, but
if you can help.
if you can help it,
Yeah.
and if you get those reactions, if you're exposed to rain, there are certain medications which you can be given.
Okay.
You can have them at home.
And take care of
Yeah.
it. All right. Let's see the next one. Okay, moving from the rain
Yes.
now to the sun, to blazing, to blazing heat and very bright sun.
Yeah.
This is a young man who says the work that he does, makes him or forces him to be out in the sun quite often. So sometimes he's out in the sun for a pretty long period of time. He'll be there for an hour, and then when he walks either into a room or into a building, into a room, or goes under a shade, for the first few minutes he totally can't see. It's all dark.
Yeah.
He feels like he's walked into a dark room. And then he has to sit down, and a few minutes later, then it's like his eyes now open.
Yeah.
Yeah, how would you explain that?
Okay, that just doesn't happen to him, this particular person. It happens to all of us. It's a normal reaction which happens with the eyes. Yeah, the eye is like a camera, and if you're taking a photo with a camera and it's very bright, you have to reduce the size of the aperture. So you reduce the amount of light reaching the photographic plate.
lens, yeah.
Yeah. Now, somebody who is in bright light, what happens with the eye is there are certain eye muscles which constrict to limit the amount of light entering the eye. So because if that doesn't happen, then you'd get glare. I mean, everything would be so bright you might not be able to see so well. So that controls that, to reduce the amount of light entering, so you can comfortably see in a bright environment. Now, if you come out from the bright environment into a dark environment, suddenly, then for some time you don't have enough light entering the eye. That's one of the things. So your eye has to adapt, and yeah, the pupil has to open up a bit to let in more light, and also the retina, the part of the eye that receives the light, it also has to undergo certain adjustments, something called dark adaptation, which takes a bit of while, because like maximal dark adaptation takes about 15 minutes. That's why.
That's long.
Yeah, there's an initial adaptation, of course. Yeah, you go here and then after a while. But if it's totally dark, maximal adaptation is about 15 minutes. This would happen like if you enter, if you're going to watch a movie and you enter a theater and you can't see anything, you don't even know where your seat is.
Yeah.
But after a while, you see it, and after about 10-15 minutes, you're able to see actually this. You can see most of the things. Yeah. So that's a normal adaptation. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with his eyes.
No.
How about if you move from a dark environment like you've described, and it's not sudden? What you've described is for sudden. If it's gradual, then would that still happen?
If it's gradual, of course, you'll adapt, so you might not notice much of an issue. Yes. The reverse also happens when you move from a dark environment to a light, because when you're in a theater, you've watched a movie for 2 hours, and you come out, everything is so bright, your eyes even pain a bit.
Yeah.
And then after a while, things go back to normal.
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing.
A reverse adjustment.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's normal. He shouldn't worry about his eyes.
Yeah.
All right.
Normal, yeah. Unless he's having difficulty adapting to dark. That when it's dark, then he's really, really struggling, because that would mean probably he has a bit of night blindness. That happens in people who they have vitamin A deficiency, where when they're in the light, they're fine, but when they go to a dark environment, it's very difficult for them to adapt. Other people adapt eventually, but they find they're not able to adapt so well. Yeah, that means there's a deficiency, it's a vitamin deficiency. Yeah.
A vitamin A deficiency, which, like you said the last time, with these nutritional deficiencies, if one takes the food that they need and the deficiency is dealt with, then the problem is reversed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take the last one for today.
Okay.
I especially liked this one because it's one of those that the question, the gentleman who asked the question said, "We know for a fact that, however, how do you explain?"
Yeah.
And it's true. He said, "We know for a fact that if you eat junk food, you grow fat."
Yes.
This of course, it's obvious.
Yes.
So but now his question is, so how does that happen? Because he said, using himself as an example, there is a time he used to eat chips for lunch every single day.
Yes.
And he grew really, really big. So of course, everyone told him, and it made sense. You need to cut down on the chips and eat healthier and exercise a bit. And he did just that, and the weight fell off.
Lost weight.
He cut. But how did that happen? What is it in chips? What is it in all the crisps and biscuits and all this junk food that we are told makes us fat? What is it in that food that eventually ends up as bigger size in the
Has
body.
bigger size. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the main thing is a energy part of the food. Because you see, there are generally three classes of food. When you talk about food, you're talking about carbohydrate, you're talking about protein, you're talking
The
about
three groups
vitamins
we learnt
and minerals,
in
and of
school.
course, there are also others, but generally, that's what we know about. Yeah. Now, they are the energy-giving foods. Energy-giving foods, you have your carbohydrate
And starches.
and starches. You also have oils and fats under energy-giving foods. Now, volume for volume, or mass for mass, the amount of energy that carbohydrate gives you compared to the amount of energy that oil or fat gives you, you find that oil or fat gives you probably more than twice or about twice the amount of energy you get from the same amount of mass of carbohydrate. So somebody eating junk food, one of the main themes about junk food is the amount of oil and fat that they have. You're talking about chips, fried, that's oil. Fried chicken, burgers. So you find that most of the things when you talk about junk food, there's a lot of frying element. And with the frying element, you're talking about fat. Now, when you eat fat, energy-wise, you're taking so much energy, the body doesn't need it. So what does it do? It stores it. Yeah. So that's why somebody becomes fat. Because
So stored energy translates to fat.
yes, if you eat excess, more energy than your body actually needs for its energy activities, then the excess is going to be stored as fat.
I see.
And you see, as we have said, volume for volume or mass for mass, a fat has a lot of energy. So invariably, if you're taking a lot of junk food, you're taking a lot of fat, the body doesn't need that fat to produce energy. It needs very little. So the rest, it just stores it up.
Okay.
Yes.
So then there's a reverse question.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that'd be a real reverse. So that's what happens with 80% of the population. You eat
Yeah.
more chips, you eat more sausages, you eat more junk food, you gain
Yes.
weight. But then there's a few people who will eat all these things and more and still be skinny as a stick.
Yeah.
What is it about them? How is it that they're different and they
Yeah.
look pretty much like everyone else? Yeah.
Well, people are different in terms of their. People are actually different in terms of their energy requirements, and there's something which we call basal metabolic rate. That is a rate at which you burn fuel. There are people. It's like a car. If you switch on a car, you say the car is idling. Now, a car can be idling low, and they say this car has low idling. But when your car's idling goes too high, you have to go and have it adjusted. Otherwise, it consumes too much fuel
No,
at
I think
idle.
you're reaching the men.
Yes, okay, maybe I'm reaching the end. But anyway, there are people who generally, they burn things up very fast. Their metabolic processes are such that they burn
For no apparent
carbohydrates,
reason.
yeah,
I think
very, very fast.
it's
Yes.
just a person's body.
It's just a person's
there's
body,
no
yeah.
reason why
Yes.
one would burn fat faster than another.
There are a number of reasons, actually, yeah. Because there's a genetic element. There are people who genetically they're just like that. Then, if you have somebody who has a lot of muscle mass, so they have a lot of muscle but very little fat. Muscle is very metabolically active. So muscle, just by being there, burns.
That's how the weightlifters eat so much
Yes,
and still
yeah,
remain
and still
that
remain
size.
like that. Fat is very inert. So somebody who is very, very fatty, their overall metabolic rate is a bit low. So you have this muscular person who is relatively young, because age also affects metabolism. The younger you are, the higher your metabolism. As you grow older, your metabolic rate also goes down.
So you need less food.
So you need less. So usually it's this young person who is probably physically active, and that's why they're not very fat in the first place. So this is somebody who plays basketball and does those kind of things. This is somebody who their metabolism is so high that even when they eat a lot of these things, they might not
It's
gain
all
a lot of
burnt
weight
out,
because they burn all that. See, because they need it. Yeah, you see, that's the difference. Their body needs it. So when you give it to the body utilizes it,
Yeah.
and you don't get any change.
And you don't get any
Yeah.
change. And that would explain also why you'll find some people are still very huge. I mean, not muscle, big, but fat big.
Yeah.
And that person will tell you they work out 3 times a week. They jog 3 times a week, and they're still that size.
Yes.
So that would be so. You would explain that with now this person's rate of
Metabolism, yeah.
is very, very low
Yes,
or slow.
Yeah, because like you have somebody who has a lot of fat mass. This is somebody who there are 2 issues. First of all, they work out, yes, but even when they work out, working out generally increases your metabolism when you're working out, so you're able to burn stuff. But this is somebody who, when they are not working out, they need very little to sustain their metabolism. So what happens is, if this person eats, then they find that number 1, when they eat a little, they gain weight. Number 2, sometimes they eat very little, yet they don't lose anything.
Yeah.
You see, because it's a metabolic issue here.
So what would one do, especially the kind of person who goes to the pains of jogging and gymming and doing all that, and they're still relatively
nothing seems to be working.
Yeah.
It's a big issue.
Yeah. So what would a person like that do?
Well, I think the main target is to increase your metabolic rate, which you can do. If you increase your metabolic rate, then you increase the rate at which you're burning stuff. That's what you want. Now, how do you increase your metabolic rate?
Exactly.
The first thing you can do is increase the amount of muscle in your body. If you increase the muscle content of your body, your metabolic, not to very large extent, of course, but if you increase, basically what we can say, if you increase the ratio of muscle to fat in your body, then on an overall average, you have increased your metabolic rate.
Yeah.
And that's why people go to the gym. That's where you go and work out. That's where you do your aerobics, your cardio, your isometrics, and all that.
That increases muscle.
That increases muscle. And not necessarily, it increases muscle, reduces fat. So it increases the ratio of muscle to fat. Yes. And that in itself will increase your metabolism. Secondly, you also have to look at what you're eating. Number 2, what are you eating? Number 3, how are you eating it? Because those are important. Because looking at what you're eating, this is somebody who we have already talked about fat.
Yeah.
If you're eating fat, probably you're taking too much energy, much more than your body requires. So you have to cut down on the amount of fat that you're taking. The other thing you need to do is you need to keep eating.
Okay.
As in, this is somebody
Shouldn't
who...
you eat less?
It's not necessarily about eating less. It's about eating the right kind of food. Because the main thing about eating is not about eating more or less. If your body tells you it's hungry, it's because your body requires you to eat. And that is a very accurate system that the body has. But what people do is, when your body tells you it's hungry, then you give it the wrong things. Of course, then you get a problem.
Yeah.
But if your body tells you it's hungry, you eat, but you eat the right thing. Yeah, little quantities of fat, of course some protein, more fiber, more fruits, vegetable, and that kind of thing. But you don't stop eating. When you stop eating, your body thinks you're starving.
I've heard that theory from other people, so it actually
true.
holds.
And when the body thinks you're starving, what does the body do? It conserves energy. So you find that it needs very little to go by.
Yeah.
And then it becomes very difficult to lose weight. Yeah.
So that's where the theory of eat small amounts frequently.
Yes.
That does work.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. I see. Okay, I think we've exhausted what we had for today.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll probe you a bit more in the next show.
All right. Thank you.
You have been watching the MedFast program. We've been talking to Dr. Paul Wanjohi. I hope you've learned a few things. Why chips would make you fat, and why perhaps you might eat when you're rained on. I have been your host, Marianne Waisha. Remember, we'd love to get some feedback from you concerning this program. You can use the SMS line that is on your screen. That is 22330 22330. Or you could send us an email using the address medfiles@3stones.tv. Join us next time. We'll be answering more questions just like the ones we've answered today.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio